Hey everyone, welcome to Bourbon Bites, whiskey reviews with a gaming twist. I'm Clifton, and today we're reviewing Orphan Barrel Rhetoric 24. So this sample actually comes from a viewer and friend of the show, Fred G. So thank you so much for the sample, Fred. I've always wanted to try something from Orphan Barrel, but I've always been a little bit too scared to take the gamble because these are pretty pricey. He did say this was a freshly cracked bottle, so he wanted me to let it open up a bit. So it's been sitting in my glass for about 10 minutes now, but I think that's at a good point to dive in. So if you're unfamiliar with the Orphan Barrel Rhetoric series, it started a few years back when they released a 20-year-old bourbon, and they've been releasing it every year since just to see how it progresses, getting a little bit older. They're upping the proof a bit more. So this is the 2018 release at 24 years old. This release is 90.8 proof, so they did up it a bit from the previous releases, but still a very approachable proof. I obviously haven't had any of the other ones in the series, so I don't really have that to compare it to, but I have never tried a bourbon this old, so I'm really excited to get into this. That nose is one of the best noses I've ever gotten on a whiskey. It's probably coming from the age at 24 years old, but that is an oak and leather bomb. I think those are the two most prominent notes I'm getting from the nose. It definitely goes into like the baking spices with like a clove there too, but it's really oaky, but I don't think I've ever gotten that much leather just off of the nose of a whiskey. So I have heard that a lot of these older products come across as over oaked on the palate. So I'm very curious to see how this is. Like I said, I've never had anything this old, so let's go ahead and try it. Cheers, you guys. First of all, it's really drying. When that hits your tongue, I feel like my tongue just shriveled up. I guess that's what happens when you let whiskey sit in a barrel for 24 years. However, it does have some redeeming characteristics. On the finish, it goes back into that leather that I was getting on the nose, and I really enjoyed that. I love this. Definitely seems like a whiskey you would drink sitting in your whiskey den, smoking a cigar, reading a book. It's definitely a very, very high-class bourbon. Yeah, on second sip, it definitely goes more into the traditional notes that you would expect from a bourbon. There's some vanilla there, but there's a lot of like a toffee kind of taste to it. It doesn't really go like nutty like I would expect, because normally nutty and oaky kind of go together. This one doesn't really come across as nutty. The mouthfeel on it though is so thick and viscous. It's almost what I expect like from a barrel proof whiskey. I get a lot of that thick viscous mouthfeel on a barrel proof, but being only 90.8 proof, that is something really cool that I think they pulled off there really well. I will say the finish is a little short. I would expect it to be a bit longer, but it does finish with those leather, like old book notes that I really like. So I think the finish is enjoyable if it is just a little short. I think what's the most surprising part of this whiskey is it's balanced. So yes, it does hit you up front with that oakiness, but once you get past that initial, I guess, shock of this being 24 years old, it doesn't really get spiky in any direction. It's not like it's overly, nutty, overly fruity. It's really right there in the middle, and I think it is super enjoyable, and I think it definitely comes across as a premium spirit. Now, I guess the big question is, do I recommend this whiskey at the $130 price point? I will say if you're someone that really enjoys dark, oaky leather notes, this will be right up your alley. However, if you're looking for a whiskey that's like fruitier, lighter, maybe floral, you're not going to get this. It's 24 years old, so a lot of those characteristics I don't think shine through. It still has sweetness. It's sweet, like a toffee sweetness, but it's not like sweet and fruity. So I definitely think $130 is an appropriate price point, because let's face it, there literally aren't any other products that are this old other than like the Pappy Van Winkle line. So I think $130 is actually a pretty reasonable price if you want to try something so old, because like I said, this is the oldest thing I've ever tried. So thank you again, Fred, for sending me this sample, and let me know, you guys, have you tried any of the Orphan Barrel Rhetoric series? If so, did you think it was a little too oaky, or did you think it was perfect? Love to hear your comments below, but until next time, this has been Bourbon Bites, whiskey reviews with a gaming twist. I'm Clifton, and I'll see y'all next video. Cheers!